This video is made with the sponsorship of Ecrotech New Zealand, one source for all your beekeeping requirements. Hi, Trev here from Trevs Bees on Facebook and YouTube. Today I want to talk to you about feeders and feeding bees. We all know obviously why we need to feed bees. They're running out of food, weather's inclement, you don't have anything flowering at the time, depending on the time of the year, whatever. Bees are just a bit light. We also might want to stimulate them to get them into brood rearing, which could be either in the spring or the autumn. But just generally it's about making sure that there's enough honey in the hive. So we had a look at the last video, which talked about how we can heft the hive, feel the weight of it, to find out whether the hive needs feeding. So I want to talk to you a little bit about feeders. And just like beekeepers, they're many and varied. And everyone has their opinion of why one is better than the other. I say that it's good to have all of the different types, or know about the different types, so we can use what's suitable to us. We can have frame feeders that actually sit inside the brood chamber, in the honey box, in the brood box, sorry. And some people like them because they keep the bees, stay nice and close to the bees, and the bees can warm that up and keep the syrup warm and available. The downside to that is you've got to open the hive up to feed it, and in the winter that can be not so pleasant. You'll see at the end of this video how I use my top feeder, and I can feed the bees in the rain or whatever the weather is doing, good, fine or indifferent. So I just want to talk about a couple of them. One is, as I said, the frame feeder, and I don't own any frame feeders. They come in 1, 2 or 3 frames. A single frame 3/4 will hold about 2 litres of liquid, and a 3 frame full depth will hold about 7 litres. So you've got a range of options. They have the advantage also of taking up space in the hive. One of the problems with frame feeders, if you don't use them properly, bees can drown. So we need to fill them up with something like this, fern, straw, other dry material. Needs to be nice and dry, otherwise it'll cause the syrup to ferment, and you need to really pack a lot of it in, because bees fly, they don't swim, otherwise they'll be called fish, and bees drown very easily. So we'll talk about that in a minute. My favourite feeder is this fellow, Beekeeping feeder. Why everyone doesn't use them, I don't really know, because that with a bee saver on the top only cost about $12. A frame feeder will cost you almost the same price. This will hold 9 litres, and how it works. You need to have a rim 90 mils tall. This here is 80 mils tall. So it sits on there and it creates a bee space here of about 8 to 10 millimetres. The bees will fill this up with burr comb if you forget to take it off, which is a bit of a problem. But I like the fact that Beekeeping have actually, it looks as though to me that they've sandblasted or shot blasted the inside of this so it's nice and rough. The bees can climb up. So the bees can climb up here and through these 2 holes that are in the top. And there's 2 little lugs on the top here. And the bees would normally be able to climb up through here and have access to this whole area. Well, we don't want that. So they make this little called a bee saver, and it's got two little lugs in the top which correspond with these little lugs. It's got a little packer on the sides and on the ends, so that the bees creates a bee space, so the bees can climb down the side, but they can't swim. So when you put that on, you have to make sure that it's fully clipped into place, like so. When that's on there, you can now put in your syrup, depending on the size of the hive, whether you want to put in 3, 6, 9 litres. You can do all that up to about 11 litres it'll fit in here. That's a lot of syrup. And we've got a photo of the bees actually coming up through and feeding in here, which we'll edit that into there. So that's one method. Every one of my hives has one of these feeder rings on it, but they don't have the feeders in. I can store all that in elsewhere. That's my favourite method. From this, I developed this, and this is my feeder that I've made for feeding a nuke. So we've all had nukes that are a bit light. So this fits on here, exactly the same size as the box. I've got a slot up here which does the same, allows the bees to climb up just the same as the two holes in the top of the feeder. I've got a little cover over here so that I can feed the bees without them coming out and getting grumpy. I've got a little wall that the bees have got to climb over, and a little gap down here that the bees get down to the syrup. So this little wall is set down off the top here about 8 millimeters. This bridge here is the dam that stops the liquid flowing through. And then under here I have routed a little 3 millimeter gap. That allows it, when I put the syrup in here, flows in here and up to the height I can fill it up as much as the little bridge in the front. The bees can come in, take the syrup and go down. I've rebaited the floor into here, so I've had to put silicone in here to stop it leaking and all around the outside edge. So that's my little frame feeder, my little top feeder for nuke. Works very, very well. That'll hold 3 litres, and in my nuke yard I can go around and fill up all the nukes in a matter of minutes. So we've got a couple of other ways we can use this as well, and in other places. I'm sure we've all got at home some of these plastic feeder meat trays. So I collect them from the wife when the wife's bought a bit of mince or chops or something, and they will actually fit in here. So if I want to feed some syrup to these bees, I can just use a normal ring. We'll turn this upside down. I'll use this one just to show you in here, because this one's, I've already filled it up with some bracken. I can put that on there. Oh, wrong size one. Can't use that. Put that in there. So that's all packed in there. I can sit that on top. Put that over the top of there. The bees can now come up and get into that plastic tray without any effort, so it's nice and simple. You don't have to get all carried away and make one of these. You can feed them just with that. Another way of feeding, with all the bracken in here, it can get messy and it all ends up in the box, and that annoys me. So I've developed another, or found another little method, is my Ziploc bags. So I can just get a Ziploc bag, fill it up with syrup, sit that on the top, get a sharpened nail, 3 or 4 holes in the top, and the syrup will actually come out the top just in a little bubble. The bees will climb over the top of that and suck the syrup up. It never leaks out. You don't need to put too many holes, 4 or 5 holes enough, and that'll work very well. At the end of it, I throw those bags away. They're pretty cheap, and I just refill them up. I can have a bucket with a whole heap of these in it, and I can just go around and feed my hives with these. You can feed a full depth hive with that. That's got half a litre of liquid in it. Another little method of a bee saver is a bit of polystyrene. So if you drop the polystyrene in here, just to show you how it all nicely works, open the bag up. And we can sit that in there. It needs to be quite a bit smaller than the tray. And the bees can come in here and they can walk all over this, get their syrup and find their way back out. Get the odd bee that drowns, not very many. The only problem is, for some reason, bees like to eat polystyrene. So they chew the polystyrene up a bit. We can get rid of that. And I'm sure some people have found on YouTube and in some of the books about jar feeders. So this is one of my hive mats that I make, and I put this 70mm hole, I think it's 70mm, 75mm hole, 3-inch hole that's in here. That's on all my hives, and I can close that off if I want. But if I need to feed the bees, I can use my little jar feeder. These hold a quart in the old language, about a litre. And what I've done is I've drilled 2, 4, 6, 7 holes in here, 5mm. Just want to show you something. When I tip this over, a bit of liquid will leak out, but then it'll stop. Now, I don't know whether you can get a photo of that. All these little holes that are there have got little bubbles underneath them. And the bees will come up and suck that out and suck the syrup. That can be sitting over the top of that hole like that. Put a a 3/4 or a full depth box over the top, put your hive mat on top, and there's your bees being fed nice and quietly in there, and you don't have to take the hive mat off, don't have to get at the bees. And you can do a jar swap thingy quite easily without causing any trouble. Okay, so that's it about feeders, how I use them, some of the different types. So I've got a beehive that's out in the yard. She's cold and miserable out there at present, but let's go out and we'll feed it. Okay, so we've got out here into the apiary. Let's imagine that today's raining or doing whatever it is, and I now need to feed this hive. Well, under normal circumstances, I don't want to open the hive up, but I can because I've got a BeeTech feeder. I can open up here. There's no bees around. I can pour in my syrup. I can fill that up. I can put 9 litres in there if I want, but I'll put in here round about 1.5 litres. This needs to be reasonably flat. Put the lid on and I'm out of here, out of the apiary. I can do doing it in the raincoat, anything that I like. I don't disturb the bees. The bees don't even know that I've gone, apart from they smell the syrup. So that's it from Trevs Bees, Facebook and YouTube, all about feeding. Well, a fair chunk about feeding anyway. Catch you around in the beehive.